listening to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. This is Dr. Charles Laux, and I have a very special guest who is very well known in the orchestra world and also the band world, and all over for his amazing compositions. This is our episode number 117, and I'm proud and honored to welcome Mr. Brian Balmages to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Thank you so much, Brian, for being here.
Absolutely. Lucky 117. I'll take it.
That's the way it is. But I really appreciate your time, and I wanted to just let people know all about you, because I'm sure everyone out there is heard of a piece by you or played a piece by you, and you just have contributed so much to the wealth of our string repertoire now. And I know there's a whole other side of the band side too that you've contributed to as well. So can you tell us just a little bit about you and how you grew up and where you're from and your training and how you got to do all this amazing stuff?
Yeah, I always like to lead with the TLDR, right? And it's like, well, let me give you the short version. I don't have a composition degree. I don't have a performance degree. Wow. I don't have a conducting degree. I don't have an education degree. So,
but yet you're doing all these things.
We're good, right? Let's just stop it, right? So both of my parents were musicians. They met at the Peabody Conservatory here in Baltimore. So I grew up here in Baltimore.
Okay.
My mother they were both education. My mother was voice with a piano minor. My father was music education, trumpet, and I followed his footsteps in terms of playing trumpet.
Okay.
When I was younger, I really thought I wanted to be, of course, as a trumpet player, I grew up in band.
Yes.
And I thought I wanted to be a band director, just like Dad, right? I want to be a band director. And fun fact, he was my elementary school band director.
That is cool.
He was also my wife's elementary band director 3 years later. And no, we weren't married at the time, of course. But we had this. It was part of our family's culture, right? I would go to band concerts when I was little and all these things. So the orchestral side, my school orchestra, unfortunately, a decent number of, typical schools didn't have a great full orchestra program. Mm-hmm. And so we would pretty much before festival get together after school and do a couple of rehearsals and play your generic, orchestral rep that your typical high school group can sort of play. And so I never had a great experience with orchestra at all until my senior year. And I had made all county orchestra and things like that, but it was fine. And I remember one year we played highlights from The Wizard of Oz, and I thought, okay, this is great, whatever. Great music. It wasn't hitting me, right?
Well,
so
yeah,
then
I mean,
a
trumpet part, I was going to say, it's like a trumpet part in a full orchestra is not like playing the violin in a full orchestra. It's like it takes a lot of getting used to, and if you're coming from the band.
Well, right. And of course, now as an all-state orchestra conductor, I have firsthand experience in how difficult it is for them to understand how to play in an orchestra. Most of them don't know how to, right? So we can get into that a little bit later.
That'd be great.
My first real experience in an orchestra that really hooked me, right, was when in my senior year on the East Coast, we have this thing called the All Eastern Orchestra, and you probably know about this.
I've heard about it.
Yes. And so it basically, they take every 2 years, they put this group together as part of the All Eastern Convention with NAFME, and it features all-state players from Maryland up through Maine.
Wow. Cool.
And so you've got to make all-state a certain number of years, and then you've got to, however the thing works.
It's very high level.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah. And so I somehow worked my way into principal trumpet of that group, and we played the Rachmaninoff symphonic dances.
Wow.
And I remember the only downside is we played it in an ice hockey rink, right? But that's fine, whatever. It is what it is.
Right.
But I just remember listening to these sounds and just realizing oh my gosh, this is incredible. And beyond that, I had grown up listening to a lot of film score music, like a lot of composers and anybody really. John Williams has always been a hero of mine.
Sure.
But I had never really understood what it was like to be inside of that sound. I was always just, it's a soundtrack, I'm playing it. And then suddenly I found myself inside of this thing and I couldn't get enough of it. And so
That's cool.
I always tell people I'm somebody who cut my teeth in the world of band, so to speak, but then professionally, everything was driven by my love of orchestra. So I got to college and I always wanted to play in orchestras, got to graduate school, played in orchestras. Then I won a job in the Miami Symphony while I was down in Miami and started playing in that group for a while. All the while I was just writing, because remember I said I don't have a composition degree. I just wrote. I would write for anything I could get my hands on. And probably my greatest composition teacher was hearing my music played live. And I really like to be very honest. There's a lot of music that I wrote that was really bad, like really bad.
Well, that's the thing. Is like you fail, like, you know, how many times do you have to fail to be successful? Like that's part of the journey, right?
It is, but this is also a very unique thing, because composition, this world is one of the unique things that you benefit more from an educational standpoint when you fail than when you succeed. Because every time I've written something that was great, I just thought, oh, that was great. We're kind of done, right? Yay, me, go me, let's celebrate me, right? But when I would write something that I failed at or just sounded terrible, it really caused me to look at that and say, what didn't work? Like, why did this not work? I very often, when I'm talking to students about this, I'll say, it's kind of like this idea of you've written your paper, you've handed it in to your professor, and then they've red penned the living daylights out of it, and they give it back to you, and then you've got to make it better. And so listening to it was kind of like my oral red penning of this thing, realizing that, well, it sounded great. I thought it sounded great when I was writing it. Why did it not sound great? Oh, because acoustic instruments don't have, like, not piano, but other acoustic instruments don't have a sustain pedal. So when I'm writing the piano, holding down the sustain pedal, violins can't do that, right? And so you learn very quickly that, oh, I got to take a different approach. And so all of that just kind of led into me writing more and more. Friends of mine that were graduating from school started saying, hey, I would love what you wrote in college. I would love for you to write for my group. And I said, okay, I have an elementary group. And so I wrote music for them, and it was pretty bad. Right. But I learned from that. Right. And then I would go in and work with them, and they would say, oh, we'd love to have you come in and work with the kids. And so I'd work with the kids. And then somebody else would say, oh, I heard you had Brian in to work with the kids. How did that go? Oh, he was great with the kids. So then, oh, why don't you come to my school? And so my career literally was kind of a word of mouth thing.
That's amazing. What are your degrees in? The Orchestra Teacher Podcast is sponsored by Kaleidoscope Adventures. Recruiting and retaining talented musicians is essential for new orchestra directors building a program. And one of my favorite tips for generating interest is to plan a trip. There are so many options. You can participate in a festival at an amusement park, take the stage at Carnegie Hall in New York City, or travel abroad and perform in Vienna, the legendary city of music. Wherever you end up, not only will your current students look forward to the trip, but younger students will count the days until it's their turn to go. If you have no idea where to start, connect with Kaleidoscope Adventures by visiting the link in the show notes. They've been planning exceptional performance travel since 1993 and will make you look like a seasoned professional.
Right? Underwater basket weaving for my undergraduate. No, my undergraduate degree was in music industry. And so I was writing music already, and I was practicing a lot. I wanted something that I felt was very functional for what I was doing. And to me, music industry was a way for me to leave undergrad with not just the ability to compose, but a literal reel of music that I could let people hear because I was able to record it. Whether I was multi-tracking it or whether I was setting it up for a student orchestra to play or whatever it was, I was learning to do all of those things, but at the same time, doing things outside of my degree program as well. I always like to tell people,
it makes you marketable. You're able to market all of the things all the talents that you have when you know about the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wasn't isolated to the music industry world. I remember when I was in undergrad, I practiced my tail off, and my mindset was, I know I'm not a performance major, but there's nothing in the rule book that says I can't practice as much, if not more, than a performance major.
Right.
And there was nothing in the rule book that says you're not a composition major, so you can't write compositions.
And
right.
And teaching. I mean, there's a lot of people that go into education. It's like, well, I'm not going to perform. Like, no, like, or they want to go into performance, but they're using education as a backup, which I don't really recommend. But, it doesn't matter. You can be a great performer and still be a music educator or, whatever. So that's amazing.
And in the world of music, I think we have to understand what even does a backup mean, right? Because the reality is, if you're a performance major because you don't want to be an education major because you don't want to teach, find me a performance major somewhere in this world who does not teach in some way, whether they're doing master classes, whether they have a private studio, or whether they are teaching adjunct at the local university or at a major university. It's part of what we do.
Right. They want to eat, you got to teach. That's what I say. Because it's
fair enough.
Hard,
I mean, I don't teach, but that's okay. I guess I don't eat, right?
No. I'm saying, but like as a lot of performance majors have a tough time really like paying the bills, because if they only want to perform, you got to be able to do both. Yeah.
I like to think of it like thinking it as mutual funds, right? Musical mutual funds. The world that we live in, you can make it in a lot of different ways in the music industry. There are lots of ways to do it, and you can make it as a performer, but you have to be willing to diversify your brand, right? You have to be able to obviously perform in a variety of styles, because that you're going to play in the local orchestra, but then a touring musical is going to come through town. You've got to be able to sight read. You've got to be able to do those things. Somebody's going to ask you to play for a wedding, and they're going to say, "Oh, I would love for you to play a descant over the last verse," and you're like, "Well, I don't improvise. I never learned how to do." You just lost yourself a job.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
And so to be able to have this massive skill set. It really, and of course, teaching is part of it. And even though I don't teach formally, and I've never taught high school per se, I have taught at the college level.
Yeah.
But every time I step in front of an honor group, I'm teaching.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're a teacher. You're a teacher 100%. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the crux of how I got to where I am. I mean, I will say that as an undergrad, we have this, and especially if you have any young listeners listening to this, this is really important. But we are in a culture right now, and all of the folks that are a little bit more, we'll call them experienced, that are listening, right? But we are in a culture right now that is trying to usher people through school. We don't want to overstress people out. We don't want to bog them down. We don't want people to get overwhelmed. Right.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to adjust the degree to accommodate that. Never mind the fact that the real world is not going to accommodate that. Like, if you want to be a professional musician in whatever capacity, including being a teacher, that is being a professional musician, you are going to have multiple concerts in a week. You are going to have to grade things while you are preparing for the community orchestra performance. There's going to be things.
Yeah.
And so if it's too much, great. Let's find that out in college so that we can redirect you on a path that you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And I say all this because in my undergrad, I had my foot on the gas pedal the whole time.
Yeah.
To the point where I actually graduated with 204 credits as an undergrad.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it took me 5 years, and the head of the School of Music, who is Millicina Morris, she went on to go to the Ohio State University and also to Peabody. As deans of music. But she told me in my exit meeting, she said, well, you're 3 credits short of a doctorate, but all I can give you is an undergrad degree. And I thought, well, I'll take it. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
but what were all those extra credits, right? That was counterpoint. That was conducting. That was independent studies and all these different things. Public speaking, right? These are things that I use all the time that made me, I feel like, who I am.
Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of my basic courses in the summers at the community college when I would go home from my undergrad, and so that I could take private conducting lessons. I took cello, I took bass, I took oboe for a year with the professor. Like, I really wanted to better myself, and part of that was just trying to get the other credits out of the way so I'd have room in my schedule to do it. And I don't regret any of that at all. It was so beneficial to me. It sounds like, and that rigor that experienced people that we're talking about in our generation I think it's getting less and less. It's harder to find a lot of people that are willing to put in that dedicated work to train themselves so they're ready for the professional world, whatever they decide to do.
And not only putting in the work, but I think really it comes down to wanting to put in the work.
Right.
And that was the big thing. Like I didn't practice 4 or 5 hours a day because I had to. It was just who I was. It's what I wanted to do. And we are so blessed to be in a career path where not only do we get to do something that we love, but the things that we do literally can change humanity, right? And how many things can truly do that and change people and bring people together. And so it's a very beautiful thing, but it's also a very serious thing that you have to be all in. And so that's where I always talk to people about this idea of, do you want to be a music major? And if somebody says to me like, well, it's between music but I also might want to go into pre-med, it's like, well, then you've already made your decision.
Yeah. It's all or nothing, really. I mean, it's hard to do it halfway.
Right. Now you can be recreational and do it, right? And you can play in a community, by all means, right?
Please do.
This is like and I hope people do that. I mean, we need people who are not full-time, all-time musicians, but at the same time are contributing and very often on a high level.
Yes, that's amazing. And, there's a few of my former students who I love keeping in touch with, and, they're different professions, whatever they are, but they're still playing the community group, and they're still like attending concerts, and they're still like loving music. And that, we're not going to make every one of our students into a professional musician or a teacher, but when they go out and they're still using the skills that they obtained in high school or college or whatever, and they're able to go out and make a difference in the world and promote the beauty and promote the arts, like, that's awesome. That's my favorite thing.
Absolutely. And we also have to keep in mind that in every interaction we have with a musician, we never know which one. I mean, Robert Smith used to always say, like, someone's going to be the next Mozart, someone's going to be the next Beethoven, someone's going to be the next Marin Alsop, like whoever it might be. We never know. And if we show up, we don't give everything we have, we've kind of let that person down. And I'm now getting to an age where I run into people, like I was 2 years ago, I was guest conducting the United States Marine Band, right?
Wow.
It's a pretty good band.
Pretty good.
and a clarinet player came up to me on the break and just said, you were my conductor in high school out in California. And I thought, wow, I guess I didn't ruin you too bad. You turned out okay.
That's amazing.
That's happened with several of the service bands and even some of the orchestras that I've worked with. It's just, it reminds us what an opportunity we have every time we interact with another musician.
Yes. And that's the beauty of what we do. And for me, that's what keeps me going. I mean, 30 years in the classroom, but then I see so-and-so's done this and so-and-so's doing this. Like, that's what keeps me going. It's like, it makes me hungry for more. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some of the projects that you have going on, or new compositions, or things that you've done recently, things that you're really excited about?
Yeah. So I guess there's a couple things. One of the things, well, let me start off in the orchestra world purely. And I just finished a piece literally 2 days ago for Chris Lape, who I
love Chris.
Coordinated. Yeah. So
we were at Ohio State together.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And Chris is phenomenal. And so they commissioned me to do a festival style piece for the 100th anniversary of their district.
The great district.
And so I wrote this piece called 100 Horizons.
Oh, cool.
And so the piece came together really well. Festival, so it's a grade 4, grade 3, and grade 2. I didn't tell Chris while I was writing this because I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I was able to do this, and I've never done this before. This is a piece where obviously you can play all the different parts together, but it's the first time I've ever written a festival style piece where if you only want to play the grade 2 version, it works as a complete piece.
Oh, that is genius. Yeah, that is
genius.
So
you can do the grade 2 version by itself, the grade 3 version by itself, or the 4 by itself, and then you can combine them as well. So
that's a really great idea, because then you have like, oh, we're gonna play it for this concert, and then we're gonna be able to play it at the festival together. That's just an awesome idea.
Right. Other versus all these middle school or elementary school groups that are putting this time into a piece, but it never sounds complete and it's just not musically rewarding. Right.
Right.
So that was it was a challenge to see if I could do it and really make it feel complete. Yeah. So and just to clarify, it's not going to be until late spring. I think that this is going to be available 2026. So people are going to have to wait. But a friend of mine who edited it, she was like, "Oh my gosh, people are going to love this. It sounds like a movie. It sounds like," and I was like, "Okay, well, that's so great." Cool. So that's one of the things. Yeah, it's I'm really proud of it. So I'll record that in January with a lot of the players in the Indianapolis Symphony, and we always have a great time. Another thing I've been working on, and this has been kind of a 1.5 year long project now, but I've been working on this thing. A lot of people probably know Make Music Cloud. It was used to be called Smart Music.
Sure.
And so for those that have followed my career, they know that in very early 2000, pretty much right on the nose, I started publishing with the FJH Music Company.
Right.
And I had gotten introduced to Frank actually through Robert Smith, who at the time was at JMU. He was one of my music industry professors.
Got it.
And so Frank and I started this incredible long storied career. And for anybody who doesn't know who Frank J. Hackinson is, he is FJH. Right, Frank J. Hackinson. That's him.
Yeah.
And so that became this incredible long career. And then he passed away in the early 2020s, and he was still coming into the office every day in his 90s. Bless his heart. That's amazing. Just talk about dedication, right?
Wow.
And he was an icon. I mean, when people don't realize, you might not know the name Frank Hackinson, but you probably know the name Quincy Jones. Yeah. And Quincy asked Frank to be his manager when they were both living in New York, and Frank turned him down because he wanted to stay in the print music business. Frank he worked with Marvin Hamlish, and you see some of the chorus line music there. Frank also he did the deal, and he was the first person to own the print rights to the Beatles in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at one point when Frank was with Studio PR and Hanson Publications, at one point, Frank controlled 99 of the top 100 Billboard hits, the rights to them. Right. So, I mean, that's the kind of person we're talking about.
Wow.
So,
I had no idea about that. That's really cool history.
Pretty crazy.
It is.
And so, so we had this incredible time together, and then the timing kind of worked out for me to begin an association with Alfred and Make Music, which of course are sister companies. And so this gets me into this whole Make Music Cloud thing. And so about 1.5 years ago, we started exploring this idea of how do we get kids more excited about practicing, right? And we started thinking about like this music teacher's wish list, right? Going on Open D. Kids don't really get very excited about that, right? Pizzicato on Open A. It's not a very exciting thing, but these are critical skills, and we have to make them want to do it. Right. And so how do we do that? And so about 1.5 years ago, I started exploring this idea of, could we pair these technique exercises with movie soundtracks? And because of Alfred and their relationship with Warner Brothers Studios,
that's right,
I had access to all of these soundtracks that we were able to start. So we just started, the big joke is we started with the blockbuster hit movie Meg 2, Into the Trench.
Okay.
And that's the response we get from everybody. Almost an awkward silence, like, oh, you don't know that one, huh?
No, I don't.
No, nobody does.
Okay,
right?
Good. I was like,
nobody does. Most people know it's about a giant shark, and nobody knows the music, and very few people. It didn't really do that well.
Okay.
However, we released a bunch of technique to the soundtrack, which is a really fun kind of drone, pulsating, groove-oriented thing. And within a week, it was the most played thing in the platform.
Isn't that crazy?
And so all of a sudden, people are now saying, hey, wait a minute, we might be onto something. So then I did the Spooky Foundations, which had music from Nightmare on Elm Street and Beetlejuice and even older movies like, oh my gosh. Well, anyway, we can go on, but The Dying Gods was one of them.
Okay.
The Overlord from Overlook and all these different movies. And the movie It.
Yeah.
Right. And so lots of really great soundtracks. And so we started doing stuff with that. And kids started to really jump on that. Then we did a festive foundations, which had music from The Grinch. It had
Fun.
Polar Express, and all these different, again, fun movies. And every time we put one out, more and more kids were getting engaged. And then we this just recently we launched this Harry Potter Foundations, which
that's going to be popular.
Is an entire sequence that is well, there's two versions of it. The first version actually parallels a typical beginning string method.
Okay.
So kids are learning open A. They're now playing that open A with the Nimbus 2000. Soundtrack and all of these and the soundtrack, they sound like the authentic actual soundtracks.
Real
and
tracks.
So we were able to walk through the entire skill set that kids need to learn in a beginning method, D major, D tetrachord, A tetrachord, working through octave D tuning, obviously the pizzicato side, the arco side, and then even further on in advanced techniques, we're getting into things like extensions and low 2 and high 3 and hooked bowing, like all of this stuff. And so it has now gotten to the point where hundreds of thousands of kids are doing this, and this is what blows me away. And this is really all I care about at the end of the day. Our data people started looking at the data, and they found out that kids that were using this foundations thing were practicing over twice as much as any other kid. And that's all I care about. Right? That's all I care about, is getting them to practice.
Kids don't want to practice by themselves, and it's not that fun to practice by yourself. And so when you have, I've always found, like when I make a cool accompaniment for a track or a warm up, I do it all the time. It changes everything. It changes everything. It changes their motivation level, changes their excitement about wanting to do it. And it sounds like you've got it down now with that. That's awesome.
It's been really great. And plus they're establishing a better pitch center because they're listening to something and playing along with something. And of course, then their tempo, whether they realize it or not, they're playing with a metronome all the time.
Yeah. And that's all we've ever asked them to do is listen and count and feel the rhythm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so those are just a couple of things that I've been doing, but very different sides of me as well, which is kind of fun, right? One's really in the digital educational, which is something that I was really excited about moving with Alfred and Make Music. This allows me to explore a world that I've never been able to explore before, but at the same time, obviously getting really entrenched in I'm a composer first, right?
Sure.
And I'd even argue maybe I'm a conductor first and then a composer. I don't know. I love conducting more than composing as well.
You're doing that a whole bunch, right? You're traveling all over.
I am. And I get to do some really fun things. This year, I've got a couple really fun things coming up. Some orchestras in Texas. I'll be out in Colorado doing their all state.
Oh, great.
So got a really fun program there, amongst other things, doing one of mine, but I'm also doing Jennifer Higdon's Blue Cathedral, which I absolutely adore. It's funny because as a composer, I look at music like that.
Yeah.
And I just start thinking to myself, how did she think about this? Even though people ask that about me all the time. Like, how did she come up with this? And how do I look at this phrase structure? And how do I understand what gets the most important, what's most important here? And where's the peak of this phrase? And where's the color? And how do I want I love doing that. I learn so much when I get into other people's music.
Yeah, that's so cool. You're the second composer in a row I've been recording for this podcast, and I'm always interested because I like doing arrangements and I really want to compose. I'm just trying to figure out, I guess, what is the process that you use to get started with a piece, or like what you have the inspiration for a melody and then you harmonize it. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your process, I guess?
Sure. It's like the compositional chicken or the egg question, right? What comes first, the melody or the harmony?
Right.
I used to, when I was a lot younger, I used to try to approach every piece the same way. Or I'm going to write a melody and I'm going to do this, or I'm going to try to write it. And very quickly, I realized that pieces are almost like warm-ups. And if you think about it, let me start off with something that every one of your listeners can understand. We, as performers, when we wake up, some days we wake up and we pick up our instrument, and within a minute, we feel like we are on fire. Like I could crush any audition today. Thank goodness my recital is today. I feel amazing. Holy smokes, right?
Yeah.
Then you do your warm up, and it doesn't need to be that long of a warm up because you're just in the zone.
Yeah.
Other days you wake up and you pick up your instrument and you think, did I pick up the correct instrument? Is this even my instrument? Am I even a string musician? Right. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But on those days you're still required to play.
Yeah.
Like you don't get out of it. So your warm up becomes much more methodical. You might have to spend a lot more time on loosening up, or you might have to slow things down and really focus in a minute on tone or vibrato or pitch, or just the right hand, getting that, whatever it might be. And so for me, composing can be very similar in that a piece will often tell me how it wants to be written. So I kind of have 3 or so ways that I typically will approach a piece. If a piece is really coming to me, right, that those days where you pick up the instrument and you're just on fire, I'll just open up software and I'll just start writing, right?
And then could I ask, like, your entry method? What do you usually use?
I'm a finale person.
Okay.
I refuse to give up. I'm not letting go. I'm just holding on with dear life.
I was talking to our composer that I had on last week, and we were saying, like, it would be so great if, like, it would get picked up by even, like, another interested party, so that would keep it going, because I've been using it since version 1, and I'm sure you have too.
My father was one of the pilot people for it as well, and so I've been using it forever. And
it's hard.
Yeah, I understand. It's hard, and so that's so if when the world hits me that way, I'll just write, and I will, even if it's full orchestra. There are times when I'm just orchestrating fully as I go. Wow. Or I might write a 4 or 5 measure line and then jump down and write a 4 or 5 measure line for the next part, because I just hear things so clearly. Mm-hmm. It's almost like when you hear somebody speaking to you, you just know how the letters are organized, and you don't have to write each letter down. You just do it. So that's one way. Other times I will sit down at the piano. I play by ear. And so I'll just sit down sometimes for an hour and I'll just play. Sometimes with manuscript paper, sometimes without. Mm-hmm. And just see what happens. There are times where, as I'm playing, I have manuscript paper next to me and I'm writing things down in terms of a sketch.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll write a melody with chord changes above it. Basically, I'll write whatever I need to remember what I was playing at that point.
Do you do any notations, like on your phone, like if something comes to you, you're recording
sometimes melodies? I'll be in the car and I'll voice memo it and no, I can't sing, but that's pretty much what it sounds like. And so I'll do that. And then the third way, which is something that I employed a lot last summer. Last summer, I wrote my first ever symphony. It was for a band. It was a commission for a band. Sure. I've had some folks ask me to do it for orchestra. We'll see.
Would a transcription work?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the transcription would work for full. It would.
Oh, for full, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 30 minutes of me. So whoever can handle that, good luck, right? My wife, even, I don't know if she can even handle it, but let's hope she can. But there was one movement where I knew ahead of time, in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve, I could not do anything at the computer and I could not do anything at the piano. Nothing. It was a movement called, Out of the Darkness. And it was all about this idea of where conspiracy lies and where things are born in the darkest, furthest, most parts of the internet. And that whole idea of rage and anger and frustration, and how the world sometimes just seems like it just wants to yell at each other all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to figure out, how am I going to communicate that? And I was so worried that sitting down at a piano trying to play that was not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Or trying to do something into a notation program, just, it all felt so restrictive. And so that was the first time ever in my life that I sat down at my kitchen table with no keyboard, no nothing, and I sketched the entire movement by hand from beginning to end.
On manuscript paper.
On manuscript
paper,
the
old-fashioned way.
Yeah, matter of fact, it's funny. We're sitting here talking, but I happen to have it sitting right here. This is just some of it, right? Your listeners can't.
Oh, wow. Wow, yeah, you can see that. Wow.
And so, yeah, and so I just I can't believe I'm just sitting right there. And so I literally wrote for probably for many days, but about 150 to 200 measures of music, and I didn't touch a piano one time.
And
And
is
then
this piece already out?
it's in consortium right
Okay.
now, so it's
Okay.
going through premieres.
Sure.
It's been premiered a couple times. I've got two CBDNA premieres happening this coming year. One in Tampa by James Madison University, and then one in Dallas by Arkansas Tech University.
Cool.
And then there's a lot of other folks that are on it that have been, jumping into it. Ohio State was on it. Your alma mater, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of great folks. So, but the cool thing about that and the terrifying thing about it, you can imagine, okay, I've written this 5-6 minute movement that I've only heard in my mind. My next step was, now I'm going to sit down in my notation program.
You got to put it all in.
And I'm going to notate all that, but I'm not listening to it as I'm going. I'm just notating it. And then I'm filling in the gaps of, okay, I heard this, I'm going to do this. And then I go back and I play the thing for the first time. And it was some of the coolest. It was some of the coolest stuff I have ever written in my life.
Wow. And this just
truly
happened within the last year or last 6 months?
Yeah.
Or? Wow.
Yeah, no, it was last summer. So just over a year ago that I was writing this. And it's one of my favorite parts of the piece. Just that raw, it had to be raw.
That's really cool to hear that process and hear, the creativity. Just, you have to step away. You had to step away from the technology and even from the instrument to just hear it in your mind.
Right. The funny thing was, after finishing a 30-minute symphony, then my next thought was like, oh my gosh, I hope I can still write a grade 1 string orchestra piece. Like, I hope I can still do that.
People are counting on you. People are counting on that. Those 1, 2s, and 3s. I mean, there's so many great pieces that you have, but one of my younger groups is working on the Wood Splitter Fanfare for our first concert, and it just they really like it. Just energetic.
That's
fun.
a fun. I don't know if everybody knows the story behind that, but I was actually in Illinois. What were you know about this?
No, I don't. And so I was going to see because we're doing our concert on Tuesday. I get your permission to tell the story for our audience and use it as my little introduction.
Well, tell it at your own risk, right?
I might let you tell it.
Yeah, right. I was guest conducting a group outside of in Illinois, and actually up in Lake Forest, and everything had gone great. And I was getting ready to. We had several orchestras on stage together, and it was okay. The advanced orchestra, now you're going to play, and then now the intermediate orchestra will play. But we had everybody there so that we could get moving. Well, before they started before they went to go do the piece that I was working on, this viola player put her instrument up and her chin rest broke, like came off the instrument, and the viola dropped. Like she dropped the viola because the chin thing came off, and it hit, and I watched the body split all the way from straight up.
Oh my gosh.
And it was in the blink of an eye, she looked at it, and of course there was a little bit of panic, and then she looked at the girl next to her who had a viola as well, who wasn't playing. They swapped instruments, and this girl just dug in and played the whole concert and was great. And after that, I remembered thinking to myself, I've got to write a piece for this girl. And so I wrote Wood Splitter Fanfare. She was in 8th grade at the time, but they brought her back as a 9th grader to come back and perform with them the premiere. And so it was
cool.
A really neat thing.
That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that my students will appreciate that, knowing the real background. Yeah,
maybe not tell them until after, so they don't drop their instruments. Because tell them he will not write a piece for you if you drop your instrument. Okay.
Well, we just had a pretty bad fatality like a week and a half ago, but fortunately, I was able to find a new instrument for her, and she likes it. So, but it was pretty bad. So
I will tell you, friends of mine in Australia, outside of Brisbane, sent me a video that they recorded to introduce Wood Splitter Fanfare, which they were doing there, and they some people might want to walk away from this for a moment. They dropped a double bass from a second or third story building and slow-moed it on the way down. So you just hear this,
Oh,
and then it hits the ground and just explodes. And they told me, they said, don't worry, this thing was beyond repair. We had taken it to a repair shop. They said, like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And they knew they were doing wood splitter fanfare. So they're like, they know me, and I'm like, you need to commit all of yourself to this music when you're going to do it.
That's great.
So they committed all of the bass to that.
Perfect. That's perfect. Wow, that's so cool. This is amazing. All the things that you've been able to share with us. How about some maybe some words of wisdom for teachers out there? Just either career-based goals. I mean, because you've done so much, obviously, with composition and conducting, and now in the industry. And I mean, how many pieces do you have published?
I am really proud to tell you that I have absolutely no idea.
But it's
I have never cared. I've never cared. I could be off by 100. Honestly, I could be off by 100. I know some people out there are really adamant about knowing exactly how many pieces they've written.
Yeah.
I've never cared about how many pieces. All I care about is whatever I'm writing. I just want it to be good.
Good. Yeah.
And that's all I care about.
Quality over quantity. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it's got to be in the hundreds of. I don't know, but that's amazing.
We'll go ahead and say, 123.9 pieces, because I'm not done this one yet. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But let's say over 100.
Well, it's a great contribution to the repertoire for sure. And Brian, it's just been a pleasure to chat with you today, and thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. But yeah, I never answered your question.
What was the question again?
You wanted me to tell you to notes
the words of wisdom, advice that you have.
Right. Well, I don't have any, so we can skip this part. Right, I just ruined it all. Right. Listen, the thing that I always like to share with teachers is that I already mentioned this idea of we never know when that next person's going to be in our rehearsal. The thing that I really want to remind teachers about is a couple things. First of all, every one of us, and I include us because, again, I'm thinking to myself as a teacher now as well, but we cannot remove ourselves from that sacred space that we call the podium. And I say this because it is so easy to get caught up in scheduling, bus assignments, this assignment, back to school night,
fundraisers,
this thing, fundraisers, logistics, and that's all important. But very often I see this kind of become the focus, and then the teachers are, well, I'll learn the music, I'll learn the score on the podium, or it's almost like the podium takes second fiddle to everything else. And those are the ones that I see burn out. And those are the ones that I feel like are the most uninspired about their career. So I like to remind everybody that everything takes the backseat to the joy that we make music on that podium. So that's the first thing. And probably the second thing that I really want to remind people about is that we are kind of the last barrier, the last I'd like to choose my words very carefully when I think about this, but we are one of the few things in this world left that can unite people from all walks of life. And when we give everything, and when we choose the right repertoire, and when we communicate emotionally to those kids what they need to do, and then those kids reflect all of that back to the audience, we no longer have red and blue. We don't have independent. We don't have liberal. We don't have far right, far left. We have a room full of people that, even if it's just for 30 minutes, everybody is just happy to be in the same place. Yeah. And there are not many things left in this world that can do that. And because of that, we all need to understand that what we bring every day is so vital that I would argue it might be the single most important thing that we have. And I know a lot of us talk about, well, we go to our administrators and we say test scores are better and dropout rates are less, and that's all valid.
Yeah.
But every time we do that, we are basically saying music is important because it does something for this more important thing, right? And so I really like to take a step back and just say, hey, we are trying to fix all we're trying to do is fix the world. That's all.
Yeah.
And so I want all of us to remember that. And something that I try to remember every time I step on the podium. Because me, especially, because I'm not a full-time teacher, every time I get on the podium, I don't know when my next time is going to be.
Right.
And maybe I've got this group for 3 days, and then maybe I'm off for a week or 2 weeks. I'm going to give everything in my physical being and emotional being to that group, so that when I leave there, I hopefully leave them changed, but also I leave me changed as well.
Yeah. And we forget how much, like it's all about the students, but we forget how much we benefit from what we do just because of what it is, because music changes us, music shapes us, music emotionally, all these different things that we have going on. So, that's what keeps me going, really, is, the kids trying to make change, trying to make a difference. And like, you summed it up so great. Thank you, Brian. That's just awesome. I'm sure everybody listening will definitely appreciate that.
At the end of the day, our job is to bring beauty into a world that desperately needs it.
For sure. For sure it does. Well, it's been a pleasure, Brian. Thanks again for your time. Like I said, we appreciate all the work that you do and the music that you bring to us. We're able to make some beauty with all the things that you do. So I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate it as well. Thanks.
So for everybody out there listening, another episode. This is episode 117. Brian, it was just awesome. And we will see you all next time on the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You can support the work I do by hitting that like button and subscribing to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast YouTube channel and visiting www.orchestrateacher.net.